Showing up is a choice, and it's the first step to achieving most goals. You never know who you could meet or what opportunities you could find by simply showing up. And this is a very accurate assessment and principle for many things in life. And during this episode, I want to talk about the benefits of showing up in regards to putting yourself out there publicly. Because creating public content directly does prove what sort of person you are. It shows your interests, your knowledge, your abilities, and they're out there and they're increasing your chances and opportunities. This might feel uncomfortable for many people, but the process and the accountability of creating content will likely increase your skills and network whilst you do it. And I think it's one of those things that a lot of people have a fixed mindset around, and they don't realize the benefits they could experience or how they could do it. And that's very anti-growth mindset. So I thought it'd be worth me talking about on the show. And I've certainly experienced this myself. In many areas, I've seen lots of people's success has come from them just putting themselves out there and finding opportunities that then start coming to them. In this episode, we'll learn about the benefits you can experience, the mindset changes that I recommend to create more opportunities for yourself, whilst also learning faster, becoming wiser in the process. So hell yeah, the Growth Mindset Podcast is in swing. Hello and welcome to the show. I am Samuel Webster Harris. This is the Growth Mindset Podcast going into the psychology of self-improvement. Now, there are lots of different areas that you may want to go into with your life. And I actually think that starting by just talking about it is a good way to do that. Or if you are doing something, just document your process as you're going along. And Jason Calacanis has a really good book about investing that really goes into this process. Because I've personally actually invested in over 80 startups. But until a few months ago, I just hadn't told anyone about it because I didn't say who I'd been investing in or why. And if someone asked, I was always willing to talk about like what I think about when it comes to investing or give advice or take feedback. But no one really knew to talk to me about it. And I posted an update on LinkedIn about a startup I had invested in. And suddenly I had a lot of friends asking me about investing or sharing deals. And I just received way more LinkedIn messages from startups looking for funding, which helped my deal flow. Jason Calacanis, he's written a book called Angel, and he also has a podcast all about investing and stuff. He says that you should write a whole blog for every single startup you invest in, because it not only helps you get deal flow as an investor, it'll help the startup that you're investing in get attention. It'll also help you work out how you are thinking and give you more accountability from what you're learning from your investing mistakes or wins over time. And in 10 years' time, when something works out or doesn't, you get to actually sort of see how you think and what works and what doesn't work and where you can make better decisions. And this all seems very obvious in hindsight, and yet like most people just don't talk about it or do it. But if you create regular content regarding to like investing, even if you don't have any money to invest, you can still increase your ability to make better decisions, and you can get more people interested in what you think, and you're more likely to get a job at a VC fund or something, if that was something that you were interested in. You specifically don't actually need money or experience to start developing authority in a field. When it comes to investing, you could start running a podcast talking about startups that are raising funding, just going through all the different best crowdsourcing. You can look through all the different crowdfunding websites and give your reviews of the different opportunities and interesting startups that are out there currently. You could break down some of the top lessons from every investing book that you've ever read or been interested in. You can make a regular analysis of like the biggest interesting news and industry that you're interested in, or you could read all the S1s every year that each public company lists and why you think the company is doing well or what they're going to be facing problems with. And that just shows that you're massively interested in and have some expertise in the area that you want to get into. And when you turn up to a venture capital company with a backlog of content, you'll be far more employable than trying to tell them that you're passionate about it, because they'll know you're passionate. Harry Stebbings launched the 20 VC podcast without a degree, without a job, and he only had $50 to his name. He also didn't have any contacts in venture capital. He emailed hundreds of leading investors asking for them to be on his podcast. He didn't ask for a job. He asked to talk to them and to share his ideas. Despite getting many rejections, he managed to get a few high-profile interviews, and he slowly grew his network. He was also creating a valuable source of information for many founders, investors, and other venture capital companies. As the podcast continued to snowball, he started to earn money through advertisers paying him to do more of the things that he loved. His opportunities outside the podcast also continued to grow. He quickly landed a job with Atomico VC and 6 months later became a partner in Stride VC and ended up launching a $100 million fund with them. 2 years after that, he left Stride VC to launch his own fund because he had so much deal flow because his podcast had grown so big. His content created so much attention and deal flow that he just became a reliable person for someone to invest their money in, knowing that he would have good deal flow to invest it in somewhere else. And so in the modern day, if you have a reliable smartphone, you don't even need the $50 for a mic to start running a podcast. And sure, the podcast industry is more competitive now, but if you go more niche and something that you are really passionate about, it'll still be worthwhile, even if you don't happen to end up starting a $100 million fund, which is a bit ridiculous, but still. The point is, creating content can lead you in the direction that you want to go to. And you don't need to worry about your content getting a huge amount of views or anything. So I run another podcast with my friend Nico that is literally just me and him geeking out about books. The Wiser Than Yesterday podcast. We read a book every few weeks and we break down what we learned. Each season we find some of the best non-fiction books in a given topic area. We keep reading books in the area until we feel we've covered the subject. And we don't care how many people listen to it. We do it because we like reading books and we like talking to each other and getting wiser about the topic. We've covered Stoic philosophy, all of Taleb's Inserto series, equality and race and gender, lots of startup books. We've done a whole series on money and investing, on neurodiversity in the brain, and it really doesn't matter that no one listens to it. Sure, we have like 100 listeners, sometimes 500, but the podcast shows to anyone that I really like reading, I like improving myself, I like teaching others, and any specific season shows that I genuinely do like to geek out in that specific area. Doing it in the public kept us accountable and adds a level of professionalism to everything that we've done. It keeps us more organized and we get more out of it because we have to put a little bit more in. But it also attracts things I'm looking for just by proving what I'm interested in. As a founder, I want potential investors to know that I'm aware of how to actually run a business. And just a side note, the best way to prove that you can run a business is to always do what you say you're going to do. But another good way, before an investor gets to see your results over time, is to use content that can prove publicly that you think intelligently about how to be the best founder you can be. That could be a podcast, a newsletter, a blog, LinkedIn post, but creating stuff that shows how you think. A lot of the best founders I know have a newsletter or good LinkedIn posts proving how they make decisions and how they interpret the world. And it really helps investors get on board with their companies. Sorry, this episode has been a bit more about startups and founders. You may want to do completely different things with your life, but it's definitely the same if you want to get a job or you want to get into the music industry. People just like working with people that are clearly interested and passionate about a topic, and the best way to prove that is content out there. Another benefit of creating content is that it stops your ability to lie to yourself about how interested you are in things, because I am certainly interested in Stoic philosophy and art history, how the world of business works, but a lot of the books that I've read with Nico, I probably wouldn't have finished. And not only would I have not finished them, I wouldn't have developed deeper understanding that came from having a discussion with someone else, intelligent, who was able to talk to me about them. And because I then created content, I'll meet people that maybe work in the industry. Like I met a lady on the train whilst I was writing this who works in art history. And we've read a whole book about art trading and investing over the past centuries for our investing season. And obviously I didn't point her to my episode to prove that I'm interested in these things. That would not have been very practical at the time. But I had a very fascinating chat with the lady about art movements, price manipulation by galleries, blockchain, NFTs. I didn't have to tell her I was interested in the area. I was able to share my ideas, which already proved my curiosity and interest. I didn't have to waste time telling her that I like these things in the hope that they believe me. I have overwhelming evidence of who I am. And so when you create content, you actually build that evidence that you are who you think you are. As Alex Hormozy says, the best way to build confidence is an undeniable stack of evidence that proves that you are who you say you are. And content is a really good way to prove that you are who you say you are, because you might just be lying to yourself. You may think that you're interested in doing all these things, but if you're not truly learning. Now, waiting for your calling to appear is like expecting muscles to appear without exercising. If you start creating content around your interests, opportunities only appear afterwards. Seth Godin writes that the strategy of seeking your calling is a very easy place to hide from ever doing the hard work needed to create our calling. It is only after we do the difficult work that it becomes our calling. Only after we trust the process does it become our passion. Do what you love is for amateurs. Love what you do. So if you're looking for new opportunities in an area of interest, it makes sense to be public about it. You can teach knowledge, but you can't teach interest. The world is full of knowledge. You can buy it easily and you can learn it if you have the passion. The problem is whether you're passionate or not. A degree is certified knowledge. Content is certified interest. As an employer looking to employ someone, yeah, I need to know that they have the skills available, but do they actually have the passion? Do they have the interest? And if they have content around it, it's much more likely that they're actually going to be a reliable person to be in my company. And lots of people think about these sort of fun jobs, like I just mentioned, food blogger, travel writers, podcasters, and they kind of think of it like it's a completely impossible job for them. And the amount of people that I've spoken to in the last few months who ask me what I do, and I say I'm a podcaster, and they're like, are you actually a podcaster? Like it's not a real job or something, or like it's impossible for someone to actually be doing that as their main thing. And I'm like, yeah, I'm actually a podcaster. This is like my thing now. It only happens by actually doing it, not waiting for it to suddenly drop in your lap or being envious of these people that are out there enjoying these things. It's not just about employment opportunities or hustle opportunities that you can create for yourself. It's just in general in life. I think you always get more out of yourself when you are entertained than working for the sake of just work. So create content about anything you're interested in. Let it build your path towards doing your calling. Like I said with my podcast with Nico, it's just something that I do for enjoyment. And he's also running a different podcast all about blockchain and gaming. And it ended up with him getting a job at a venture capital firm and then being paid to run a different podcast for a crypto newsletter. And he just lives the dream doing stuff he's really passionate about just because he started talking about the things. And to round this up, I've come up with something that I've called the law of creation, because you may have heard of the law of attraction, and I'd certainly get a few people that think that the Growth Mindset podcast is going to be all about the law of attraction, that you can have anything you want in your life by sheer force of overwhelming positive belief that you can get it. And I do not believe in this. I think it's super dumb. You have to take action. The belief that you can do something is essential, but it is only part of achieving anything. To achieve something, you have to work for it. So I propose a new law, which is the law of creation, which you can achieve anything you want by sheer force of creating overwhelmingly great content about it. And it's a bit stupid, but it's actually true in most cases. You still need to seize opportunities when they appear, and you have to work hard for them. But if your content is really good enough to stick out, you will have your choice of opportunities. And that is a fact. If your content is better than anything else out there, you will get lots of people listening to you, you will have an audience, and you will be able to choose the opportunities that are coming to you. Average content will be enough to prove your interest. It'll give you career prospects, and it'll give you a boost in the direction you want to go. But truly brilliant content will allow you to create whatever you want for your life. And I do think people's mindsets around content and stuff are often very passive and fixed and not interested in creating noise and thinking that there's just no opportunities for them. But it can genuinely unlock another level of success. And one of the other important things, I guess, is like good writing is good thinking. Being able to explain your thoughts actually helps you interpret them. And doing the work of creating content genuinely help you think more clearly and have better mindsets, regardless, like whoever you are, even if you just write for yourself, hence why they say journaling, etc., is a useful habit to have. Now, this might not have sounded like what you would expect from a growth mindset episode, but it does genuinely go into self-improvement and the kind of mindsets that you need to be able to look at yourself, review yourself, and turn up tomorrow as a better person, which is what the podcast is about. I hope you enjoyed the episode. It was a little bit different, so let me know what you think at growthmindsetpodcast@gmail.com or in the comments on Spotify and YouTube. Next episode, we will have something that kind of goes with this around the concept of being able to improve your work, whether it's content that you're creating or just your work for a boss or any business, but the kind of mindsets around for self-improvement around whatever it is that you do. But it does actually kind of pair well with this, so I'm putting them both together, even though they're both fine to listen to separately. But anyway, if you enjoyed the episode, please hit me up with a nice rating, because my mum still finds it odd that I do this as a job, and it would be nice for her to find this less odd by having overwhelming evidence that I'm good at it. But no drama. If you have other things to do besides rating my podcast, you probably do. But what you don't have time to do is not enjoy your life, because if life is too short to be too busy running around stressed and putting off enjoyment for the future, you kind of need to work out how to be happy, which may be why you listen to this podcast. And I know it's not easy, but life is short, so don't put off enjoyment to a later date. Be kind to yourself, and whilst you're at it, be kind to someone else too.